What is up everyone, it is me DevilNeverCry and we are back with a video on Resident Evil 8 today, or Resident Evil Village as it is known. As always, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date with all the content on the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when content drops. But on the topic of today's video, Resident Evil 8, we're going to be taking a look at the trailer and I'm kind of just going to give you my thoughts as we go along. Many of you have wanted to know what I thought about this since it was revealed. Many of you wanted to know if I even like the first person Resident Evils like Resident Evil 7 and what do I think about this direction that they are currently taking with the franchise, which hopefully I'll be able to answer in this video. So before we even get into what this trailer is, Resident Evil 8 I think is probably one of the worst kept secrets in the industry, so to speak. Like a month or even 2 months at this point, almost shortly after Resident Evil 3 Remake was released, there were rumors of Resident Evil 8 and what it potentially was going to be. People heard that it was going to be another first-person game. Ethan would be returning, Chris would be involved in some sort of way, and it was set to be located in some sort of snowy mountainous village region, and I believe even the village title card or the subtitle was sort of outlined from the get-go with the rumors. Now, a lot of people kind of disagreed with these rumors, so to speak, specifically because they mentioned things like vampires and werewolves and all sorts of supernatural nonsense, which isn't exactly what the Resident Evil series is known for. Of course, you've got some inhumane, grotesque things that happen in the series, but they try to keep them somewhat grounded to reality, with often a virus being the cause of some horrific mutation and creating zombies and evil corporations and Umbrella, and you know what I mean, right? You don't tend to see things like ghosts and ghouls and things like that in a Resident Evil game. People are somewhat disappointed from this rumor, especially because it's not coming from any old random 4chan thread or from Reddit, where it's easy to disprove what people have said because there is no basis of truth that it could be, founded on. But this is coming from someone who is a reputable leaker, or a few people who are reputable leakers, so they've got some sort of credibility to them. So people are kind of shocked that this is a thing. Because if they've been right in the past, then they are likely to be right with Resident Evil 8, and of course they were. So enough about the leaks and rumors, let's dive into this trailer. So what did I think of this trailer? I mean, it reminds me of Resident Evil 4 in a sense, with the whole village aspect of it. Very on point with the rumors, so to speak, with the werewolves and the vampires with beastmen. I believe the vampires were supposed to be the ladies with the big hats. There's a little snippet of footage in there where she's kissing or biting Ethan's wrist. Maybe she's trying to drink his blood. I don't know. But it somehow reminds me of Bloodborne, and not in the sense of its aesthetic or anything like that, but more so the fact that there is something very, very wrong with this village. But everybody just kind of shies away from it, or doesn't talk about it, or just stays home and just waits for it to all blow over, which we all know it never does. There of course seems to be some discourse between the residents of this village as to how things should be handled. I mean, you have a scene of Ethan pulling back the curtain only to witness the world's worst marksman. This old man has the gun deep in Ethan's mouth, or he might as well, considering how close it is to his face. He lets this double-barreled boomstick off and somehow misses. I don't know if he's firing blanks or if there is a lag switch involved. It is safe to say that if your life depends on this dude hitting the target, you might as well just dig yourself your own grave, because he's never going to do that. But that brings us to the rest of the trailer, where I'd imagine this is a follow-up from Resident Evil 7, where Mia and Ethan are trying to settle down after the horrific events that happened out there in goddamn Louisiana. And they seem to have a child, which I guess is where that narration comes from at the start. Maybe it's Mia reading the child a bedtime story, or a local fairy tale as she puts it. And that kind of ties into the end scene after the title drop of Village Resident Evil, where Chris rolls in, strapped to the gills with his FBI team, and guns Mia down right in front of Ethan, empties the entire clip. He goes more than just double tapping this, he just destroys her, and Ethan's just left there wondering why. What have I done to deserve this? And on the topic of Chris is looking absolutely yoked the fuck out. He seems as though he's gone back to his habit of just hardlining donuts and lifting copious amounts of weights in quarantine. A big step up from how he looked in Resident Evil 7, where he essentially had no chin and looked nothing like Chris Redfield. It seems to show an older, more gruffer take on Chris, at least his RE6 incarnation. He's still wearing that trench coat where, yeah, if he's wearing that thing, you want to stay far away from him. But that does bring me right back to the start of the trailer, where it does say, or there's some text that says, his story comes to a close. Now, I'm assuming this is probably going to be Chris's story comes to a close as opposed to Ethan's, which, you know, it's barely begun. He's had one game. Chris here seems to be going straight off the deep end. He seems to play more of a villain role in this game than anything else, so that's how it seems. And then you've got some of the key art where Chris does look quite ominous, but it remains to be seen. You know, he does roll into a house, kill Ethan's wife essentially, and perhaps take the baby. We're uncertain at this point, but it's safe to say that Chris isn't his happy-go-lucky, six pockets Redfield self. One other thing I should mention is the title of this game, Resident Evil Village. It's not called Resident Evil 8 Village, it's just called Resident Evil Village. Of course, you've got the 8 there in the village itself, the title. But I believe in the special developer message that was created by some of the producers at Capcom, they stated that the reason they did that, or the reason they titled it so, is because they believe the village itself is pivotal or vital so much to the game that it seems to be almost a character of itself, and they wanted to reflect that importance in the title of the game, which is why it's called Resident Evil Village as opposed to Resident Evil 8 Village. So, that calls into question, I guess, what do I think about Resident Evil 8? What do I think about the direction they've taken? Well, I'm intrigued as to what this game is going to be. Some of what we've heard does excite me just a bit because it is kind of out there for a Resident Evil game, but coming off of a recent playthrough of Resident Evil 7, which I streamed all the way over on Twitch, the entire thing, my first playthrough of it, there are plenty of things I do hope they fix. I mean, Ethan is probably one of the most blandest protagonists I have ever had the chance to play as. I mean, obviously the first person perspective doesn't necessarily help because you rarely see the character, but he barely seems to say anything at times, other than a few outbursts which are fantastic in the context that they happen in, but he just doesn't strike me as a character with much of a personality, so I'm surprised they went with him again, but I guess they're going for this first person angle, so it makes sense to continue with Ethan. But on the topic of first person, there are a few gameplay changes I really hope they make. The first of which is the movement speed. In Resident Evil 7, the movement speed was absolutely abhorrent. Now, I know that in a lot of the Resident Evil games, or even the ones I've played, movement speed has always been slow. It adds to the tension, you know, it adds to the difficulty of getting through certain encounters, but at the same time, you've got this slow-ass walking speed or even running speed, which seems to be even slower indoors than it is outdoors. You've got this very narrow field of view, which just sometimes doesn't really make for much of a fun experience, in my opinion. It makes for more of a frustrating experience as you're desperately trying to turn or trying to run so you can get into a better position to fight some enemies, only for you to get hit repeatedly in the back because you can't run fast. I'm also hoping they provide better enemy variety than what was found in Resident Evil 7, because fighting those handful of molded got really old really quick. But from what is to be believed, with this being somewhat more of an action-oriented title, there is hope that the gameplay will be heavily improved upon. I should probably mention that I haven't actually played any of the DLC for Resident Evil 7 yet. Perhaps they addressed some of these qualms in those DLC scenarios, but just going from a base game perspective, whilst I enjoyed my time with it, there are a few things that I would have changed, which I've just mentioned. But overall, I guess those are my thoughts on Resident Evil 8. They do what they did with Resident Evil 7, and they keep that Resident Evil DNA, which it looks like they are going to with all the puzzles and the intricate nonsense and the inventory system and stuff like that. I think this game's going to be pretty good, especially if they address some of those gameplay things that I had issues with. At the same time, maybe they're going to have this be a VR title as well, which, yeah, goodbye movement speed. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think of this game. Are you interested in it? Are you looking forward to it? Do you not like the first-person Resident Evils? Let me know down in the comments below. And with all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I would like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next time.